Sylvester Stallone collection. First up is Assassins from 1995 with Stallone, Banderas, and Julianne Moore, directed by Richard Donner, sort of a cat and mouse thriller, which I always felt this is a bit underrated. I've always liked it anyway. I know some people just don't get on with it, which is fine, but again, like I said, I've always enjoyed this one. I like the cat and mouse interplay with Stallone and Banderas, but there you go, directed by Richard Donner, like I said. Late great Richard Donner. This next one is one of Stallone's big flops. I think this one even went straight to DVD, but it's Avenging Angelo from 2001, I want to say, 2002. Co-starring Madeline Stowe and also in his last on-screen role, Anthony Quinn. Yeah, this film definitely had more potential. Stallone actually playing a associate with the mob. I think it wasn't Anthony Quinn the mobster that he was working for, so this should have been a bit more dark, but the film didn't really know what it was wanting to be. At some points it was comedy, then it was romantic comedy. Some points it's action. I don't know, it's a mess of a film, but still have it in the Stallone collection. Next up is another, in my opinion, a bit underrated Stallone film from 2012. Bullet to the Head. Well, somebody liked it here anyway. Stallone is back to his best, is what Zoo, I don't know who the hell that is, says. But you know what? I like this film, directed by Walter Hill, co-starring Jason Momoa. I think even wasn't Christian Slater in this film. You know what, I like it. And also as a bonus, in this Dutch version you get a copy of Copland as well as a freebie, but you know, I already have Copland on DVD and Blu-ray, so, but you know, it's always good to have more copies of that great film. But you know what, this film, underrated, overlooked, solid actioner in my opinion. Next up is a very early Stallone film from 1975, so this predates Rocky. I think it's a Roger Corman film, Roger Corman gangster film, based of course on Al Capone, played by Ben Gazzara, co-starring Sylvester Stallone as Al Capone's enforcer Frank Nitti, also with Harry Gordino, who I know more from his work with Clint Eastwood. He's been in a few Clint Eastwood films, but you know, a solid gangster film based on, of course, Al Capone, like I said. It's no Untouchables, but you know, it is a solid film for what it needs to be, and as a early role for Stallone, it's quite a good one. Next up is a classic from 1993, Cliffhanger, a definite top 10 Stallone film, one of my all-time favorites. Rennie Harlan directs this action classic masterpiece, co-starring John Lithgow, who has an amazing turn as the main villain of the piece, also with Michael Rooker, Janine Turner. Great film. I love Cliffhanger, one of my all-time favorites, one of the all-time greats. Same with this one. I love this film here, Cobra, 1986 Cannon film, co-produced with Warner Brothers, but it's still a fantastic film. Definitely has a Cannon feel to it. I mean, just look at this. I have this poster on my wall, a giant poster of this. It's fantastic. You know, you have Stallone here with the Ray-Bans, the matchstick, the gun, the look, the attitude is there. You have the great tagline, crime is a disease, meet the cure, the strong arm of the law. I love this film, supposedly directed by George P. Cosmatos, although there are stories that Sly actually directed most of the film himself. But, you know, still a great actioner, in my opinion. I really hope to one day see the extended work print cut, but we shall see. Next up is the classic film Copland. Like I said, I already have it on Blu-ray now twice, because it also came with Bullet to the Head. Also still have the DVD, but it's a great film. All-star cast: Robert De Niro, Ray Liotta, Harvey Keitel, like I said, Stallone, of course, Robert Patrick, Michael Rappaport, Frank Vincent in a small role. I love this film, directed by James Mangold, about corrupt cops. Must see, must own Stallone film. Next up is Creed from 2015, starring Michael B. Jordan and Sylvester Stallone, back in his iconic role of Rocky Balboa, directed by Ryan Coogler. Now, as much as I love this film, and I really love Creed, I think it's one of Stallone's best performances as the character Rocky Balboa. He's amazing in the film. I have to say, it is a film that really had to earn its respect from me, because I love Rocky, as all of you know. I'm a big Rocky fan. I don't think many people know just how much I love Rocky. Like, I love Rocky, the Rocky series. And I think Rocky Balboa from 2006, it ended perfectly. So when they announced that they're going to do this and that Sly would be back as Rocky, I have to say I was very, very skeptical and, dare I say, even prejudgmental on the film. I was like, no, this is just wrong. They shouldn't do this. This is all wrong. I didn't even see this in the theaters back in the day. I saw it on streaming afterwards, and that's where I was like, okay, you know what? It's streaming. Give it a shot. And the film blew me away, to be honest, and I wasn't expecting it. It definitely surprised me very positively, and you know what? I was wrong. I admit it. Creed is a great film. So of course, when they announced Creed 2, I did went to see this one in theaters. Again, I like Creed 2. It's not as good as the first Creed, but I still really like this. Of course, this is where we get the Drago family back. Dolph Lundgren back as Ivan Drago. This time his son is here, Victor Drago. Very personal story. Rocky Balboa ended perfectly. Creed 2, in terms of Rocky story, I think it ends just as well, to be honest. For me, if there's no more Rocky after this, which might very well be the case, concerning considering, I meant to say, the current circumstances surrounding Rocky and the Rocky rights and Sly's beef with the producers. So, but I'm fine with it. I don't need to see a Creed 3. I don't. I'm perfectly fine. This is, as far as I'm concerned, the end of everything Rocky universe related. Creed, Adonis Creed is in a good place at the end of Creed 2. The Dragos, believe it or not, are at a good place at the end, and Rocky is at a good place at the end. So I'm fine. But quickly moving on, because we have quite a few films to go through. This is another underrated one for me, Daylight from 1996. A action disaster film directed by Rob Cohen, starring Stallone, also with Amy Brenneman, Viggo Mortensen, Dan Hedaya, also the girl from Halloween 4, what's her name? Danielle Harris, Halloween 4 and 5, and also Mark Fordeford Segal. Good actress, I really like seeing her a lot, and Daylight is a great film. Tunnel disaster, the tunnel that connects New York and New Jersey. There's an accident, Stallone has to go in. Great film, recommend it. Moving on. Death Race 2000, another pre-Rocky film, with Roger Corman production, starring David Carradine and Sylvester Stallone. And what was his name in this one? Machine Gun Joe, about a deathly racing event. I fucking love this film. Of course, they did remakes and sequels to the remake with Jason Statham. Not a patch on the original, in my opinion, but they're still good. But this one, it's those 1970s grindhouse, drive-in type of films, which I do really like. So they're not meant to be, films like, they're not meant to be high art, but they're still damn entertaining. So anyway, next up is another Sly Stallone classic, co-starring Wesley Snipes, Demolition Man, also with Sandra Bullock in it. This is a great film. The tagline here says it: the 21st century's most dangerous cop versus the 21st century's most ruthless criminal. It's a sci-fi actioner. It's a fantastic film. Yeah, I like it. I really like it. Next up, this is. I wish I could say the same for this film. I don't like this one as much. Far from it. In fact, I actually think this is one of my least favorite Stallone films, if not my least favorite. But it's Driven, which has a great cast. It should have been a great film. Stallone stars with Burt Reynolds, Til Schweiger, Gina Gershon. It's directed by Cliffhanger director Rennie Harlin. Screenplay by Stallone. This should have really worked, but it didn't for me. It did nothing. I couldn't get anything out of this film. Terrible CGI. I think the story was a bit of a mess. I mean, Sly is a great writer, but I don't know what went wrong with this one, but it just wasn't for me, let's put it that way. Next up is Detox, as another bit of an underrated one, kind of a forgotten one, also with Robert Patrick in it, Chris Christopherson. Actually, a pretty good cast. Sort of a mystery thriller film. Very similar actually to The Thing. It's because Stallone is stuck in this like snowy environment, this sort of retreat in a snowy environment, and there are murders, and everybody is a suspect at one point. It's very John Carpenter's The Thing-esque, but you know what? For a sort of rip-off of that, I think this was a pretty good one, to be honest. So next up is Escape Plan, the first film to fully headline these two giants for the full duration of the film this time. They were, of course, in the Expendables films, but you know, Schwarzenegger in particular was only in the Expendables films for a limited amount of time. This time, they're both in the film for like the majority of the running time, and it's a great one. I think again, it's a film that for some people it gets a bit of hate, but I say you just can't go wrong with Stallone and Schwarzenegger together. And speaking of the Expendables is next, right here, the original, and this is the extended director's cut, so it's not the version that we saw in theaters. But I think this director's cut is a bit more superior. It has some more good takes on certain scenes, some good additional scenes, and I think in some parts better choices for the soundtrack. Now, instead of the score by Brian Tyler during the finale, we get this very cool blood pumping rock song, which I think is a better choice. Not to knock on the score by Brian Tyler, because I think he's a very good composer and he delivered a solid action score for this film, but man, that when that song kicks in during the finale in this version, it gets the blood pumping for sure. However, it's still not my favorite of the Expendables films. That goes to this film, The Expendables 2. This is my favorite of all three of them. We'll soon have a fourth one, so we'll see where we stand then. But yeah, you know what? Expendables 2, I think it has the best cast. You have Chuck Norris in this one, Van Damme, Bruce Willis's role is extended, Arnie's role is extended. You also have Scott Adkins in the film as the main henchman for Van Damme's character, who plays the villain. I think the jokes are funnier in this one. I think it's just more action all the way through. I think it's pretty much action non-stop from beginning to end. Expendables 1 took a couple of scenes to have a sort of breather in between action scenes, but this one is pretty much non-stop. You know what, the callbacks to the previous films, you know, like Arnie just, you know, says, "I'll be back," and, you know, Bruce Willis says, you know, "You've been backing off, I'll be back," and then Arnie's like, "Yippee-ki-yay." You know what, I liked it a lot. I know for some people it might seem cheesy, but you know what, I like it. Next up is the Expendables 3, and it's cool, if you can see it. It's moving a bit. It's a lenticular cover, Blu-ray to this special edition, extended edition. However, still no blood added. I mean, really, how hard would it have been to add a bit of CGI blood for this extended version? Which pretty much, that's my only gripe with the Expendables films, is that there is CGI blood. It's supposed to be the series about you know really throwing back to the action films of the 80s and 90s, but they use CGI blood instead of blood scripts, and I like practical effects. I like blood scripts all the way over CGI blood. That's my only gripe with the Expendables films. But you know what, Expendables 3, it's definitely the least favorite. The best part about the film, for the new cast anyway, because they add some new characters into the mix. Harrison Ford is a standout. Obviously, Mel Gibson is great as the villain. And in terms of the young blood, you know, because Stallone recruits a different team for this one. He doesn't go with the original Expendables team. Initially, he hires new guys and one girl. Obviously, the standout is the girl, Ronda Rousey. She is badass. I love Ronda Rousey. She definitely is the baddest woman on the planet. I think she's the best part about the new sort of the younger generation that Stallone hires. But next up is a great drama that Stallone did after Rocky. I think it was his first film after Rocky. Fist from 77, 78. Yeah, 78. Directed by Norman Jewison, with a great score by Bill Conti, co-starring Rod Steiger, Peter Boyle, among others, based loosely on the Jimmy Hoffa story about the disappearance of Jimmy Hoffa, union leader. It's loosely based on it. Stallone does a fantastic job in this film. For people that say that Stallone can't act, I always point him towards Rocky, First Blood, Copland, Fist, and I could probably think of more, but just to ultimately prove the naysayers, this is one of them that I would definitely point him towards. But, next up is Get Carter from 2000 and I want to say 2003 or something, 2002. Again, a film that gets a bit of flack, and is the old Snapcase Warner Brothers DVD. Again, I should get a Blu-ray for this one, but this movie gets a bit of flack, but I really like it. With a great cast, Mickey Rourke is in it, Alan Cumming, cameo from Michael Caine, who of course starred in the original Get Carter film, which this is a remake. And I'm very ashamed to say I've never seen the original, so I can't compare it to the original, but I really like this film. Maybe I'll change my mind once I do see the original, because I know it's a bit of a cult classic. But, like I said, I haven't seen it yet, so... anyway, next up is Grudge Match. Stallone versus De Niro in the boxing ring. Rocky versus Raging Bull, as people call it, but it's really, aside from a few references, it's actually a... very it stands on its own. It's not really, if anybody would like a digital copy, there you go. I think it's expired, but if I can make somebody happy with it, if it still works, be my guest. I think it stands on its own, apart from Rocky and Raging Bull. Of course, there's a few references, but you know what, again, for me it's an underrated one. I really like it. I think people are a bit too harsh on it. I think it's a very well-made film, heartfelt moments in it, and the comedic scenes I think are very well. So, you know what, sue me. I actually think it's Stallone's best comedy. It's definitely up there. Anyway, next up, again, people hate this one. I always liked it. It was one of the first Stallone films that I saw. Judge Dredd from '95. Co-starring Rob Schneider and Armando Santi. You know what? I never read the comics. I haven't seen the Dredd film with Carl Urban. For me, there's only one Judge Dredd, and that's Sylvester Stallone. Take that how you will. I know people that read the comics were really pissed off about the film, that he removed the helmet and stuff like that. You know what, I don't give a shit. I never read the comics. I only know the film. I only know this version of the film. For me, this is, it's a solid sci-fi actioner. For me, I've always felt that way. Next up is Lock Up. For me, one of the most underrated Sylvester Stallone films from 1989, co-starring Donald Sutherland as a villain and John Amos. There's some great people in there. Directed by John Flynn. Great film, must see, recommended. Next up, again, a pre-Rocky film, The Lords of Flatbush. I think this is also 75. Definitely one of the more noteworthy Stallone films pre-Rocky, because he's dressed very similar to Rocky. It, of course, takes place in the 50s, sort of a greaser era film, if you will. But a very good one, also with the Fonz, Henry Winkler. Who doesn't like the Fonz? And it's a bit of a coming-of-age story. I really like it. I think it's a bit overlooked and forgotten these days, but it's a pretty solid one. Again, an underrated one, Nighthawks, co-starring Rutger Hauer from 1981. My fellow countryman, Rutger Hauer, the late great Rutger Hauer. Also with Billy D. Williams. Great film about a international terrorist played by Rutger Hauer, who comes to wreak havoc in New York, and Stallone is one of New York's finest, and he's being trained to stop this dangerous terrorist. And that's what it becomes, a cat and mouse sort of game. Really excellent film. Again, butchered on release, and we still don't have a director's cut or an extended cut, but it really has to happen. It would only improve the film. It's still a great film, but we deserve to see it as it was intended. Next up is, again, for me, one of Stallone's better comedies, Oscar, 1991. sort of situational sort of comedy. It takes place over an entire day. Stallone is a gangster who wants to go straight. During this one day, he tries to go straight, but it's a very funny one. I mean, I know a lot of people don't like it. You know, people are gonna hate it. People are gonna like it. You know, you like what you like, and for me, I like this one. Oscar, great cast, great comedy in my opinion. So next up, this is the most underrated Stallone film for me. I don't get the hate for this film. I absolutely don't. Okay, it's over the top. The film title's over the top. It's about arm wrestling. Okay, I know that's not the most exciting thing to watch, to put on film. I get it. But I think they handle it very well here. I think the story is heartfelt. Again, I'm never too ashamed to admit these things, but again, it's a film that on a good day gets me emotionally and makes me cry. I like the father-son story with Sly and David Mendenhall, who plays his son. We have a great villain by Rick Zumwalt. He's a terrific villain in this, and he was the nicest guy. Offset, may he rest in peace. Is it just because this is a canon film that people hate it? I just don't get it, because the story is very, very good. There's great music, great soundtrack. Like I said, heartfelt moments. It definitely has heart to it, this film. I don't know. I will never get it. I absolutely love this film. For me, it's one of Stallone's best. It's definitely in my top 10, and nobody's going to take that away from me. But and I'm not trying to convince people to change your opinion. You know, it's your opinion if you hate it, but I just don't get it. That's all I'm saying. You know. Anyway, one of the lesser Stallone films, which is a shame because this is after Rocky. He's a cool look in this film. It's a period piece. It should have been a big epic. It's Stallone's directorial debut, Paradise Alley, also with Armando Santi in it, one of his first roles, if I'm not mistaken. About wrestling. Stallone even lends his vocals to the main song of the film, which opens and closes the film. It has a lot of ingredients and potential to be good, but unfortunately I found this one quite a bit of a dud. I might need to rewatch it, but I don't know, I wasn't too big on it, but you know, it still deserves a place in the collection, and it's still an important film in Sly's filmography, because if he hadn't directed this one, he might not have directed Rocky 2, which Rocky 2 was a very good film, very well directed. So next up is this box set that I once had to house my DVDs. These were the DVDs that was in it. The Rambo box set on DVD. Now I've put my Blu-rays in and removed the DVD, so I have a improvised Blu-ray set here. But this, back in the day, was a very cool set. Here it has pictures from all the Rambo films, as you can see. Yeah, it has the 4 Rambo films in it. But, you know, I was like, I got rid of the DVDs. I kept the box itself for sentimental reasons. I was like, you know what? It looks like it could store some Blu-rays, and I still have space in it. So if they do a Rambo 6, it could be added here. But, you know, we have this Blu-ray right here of First Blood, the first one. There's actually a Blu-ray copy given to me by my buddy Mike Dig Film from Mike's DVD and Blu-ray collection all the way from Kentucky. He was kind enough to send me I think it was a spare copy he said that he had, and this is the US Blu-ray. So, you know, I keep it even though I already have the Rambo films, because A, I love the Rambo films, and B, I never get rid of gifts. You know, I appreciate every gift that people send me. I don't get gifts often, so, but so I do cherish everyone that gets sent. But of course I do have the Rambo trilogy uncut. This is the German release of all 3, the first 3 anyway, Rambo films. So again, we have First Blood Part 2, which the Germans call the Mission, and then we have Rambo 3. What can I say? Great films. First Blood, definitely my favorite. But, you know, there's so many great action scenes in all the sequels. I love pretty much all of the sequels. Here's Rambo from 2008, the director's cut. Rambo, The Fight Continues. Yeah, director's cut, extended cut. Again, similar to the Expendables director's cut, it's the version I prefer of the film. Because there's some scenes in it that gets added and that I like more. Some other choices I like. Even though this Stallone toned down the violence for the director's cut a bit, the theatrical cut is definitely the more brutal one, which I absolutely love. But I feel he adds a little more heart to the director's cut. I don't know. Um, but then we have the only Rambo film that I was fortunate enough to see in theaters. I really hope to see the other ones in theaters during my lifetime, but this is Rambo Last Blood. Again, people didn't respond so well to this film. Some people liked it, some people didn't. For me, it was a blast seeing this in theaters, seeing Sly back as Rambo one last time. For me, I really like it. I think it came full circle very well. The story made sense to me, so there you go, Rambo Last Blood. That's the Rambo collection in my improvised box set, which still is a cool box set. Of course, it has seen better days. Like I said, this was originally how I saw the films for the first time, on DVD in this box set, and I had this for ages, but it still has its uses. Like I said, it's a makeshift Blu-ray set now. So anyway, next up is Rhinestone from 1984. Again, people don't like it. It's a guilty pleasure for me. I mean, not even a guilty pleasure. I own the fact that I like it. It's not. I don't even feel guilty about it. I just like it. I like country music. I like Dolly Parton. I like Sly, obviously. I like him together. I think the concept of her being a successful country singer who takes on a bet to turn average Joe, in this case Stallone, into a country singer within 2 weeks. She accepts that challenge. I think it's a good concept, a funny concept. You know what? Sue me. I absolutely like this film. I mean, how can you not like Dolly Parton? If you know what I mean. So, like I said, I think that this works, and this the only available Blu-ray, if I'm not mistaken. This is the German version. Again, a DVD here from Rocky. This is sent to me again by Mike Dake Films. He sent this along with the First Blood one. He knows I'm a big Stallone fan. And obviously I do have the Rocky films on Blu-ray, which we're going to get to. Once again, keep this gift. And, Rocky is one of my all-time favorite films. As a matter of fact, it's probably my top 10 films of all time. The first Rocky here. So it's never a bad thing to have more than one copy of that great film. And here, of course, is my set of all the Rocky films. Rocky 1, Rocky 2, Rocky 3, Rocky 4, Rocky 5, and Rocky Balboa. This is the Undisputed Collection, also with a great bonus disc. You know what? I like all the Rocky films, even Rocky 5. Like I said, I love Rocky. It's one of my favorite franchises. It's this and James Bond. The James Bond 007 films, those two franchises were really the first sort of films I saw growing up, or that I remember seeing growing up. It was really, as a kid, it was Rocky and it was James Bond. Those two were my heroes. That were my movies, So yeah. Next up is The Specialist from 1994, I want to say. Yeah, I was correct, 1994. With Sylvester Stallone, Sharon Stone, Rod Steiger, James Woods, Eric Roberts. Sort of a sensual thriller slash action film, which again, it gets quite a bit of flack from people, but I've always enjoyed it. I mean, any film where Sharon Stone appears nude is worth seeing, in my opinion. So anyway, next up, again, this is one of the lesser Sly films. Yes, I like Rhinestone. I don't like this one. I know I'm a hypocrite. A lot of people would say they're equally bad, but I think Rhinestone is definitely better than this. Stop or My Mom Will Shoot, Stallone, Estelle Getty. Honestly, there is Blu-ray versions of it. I know the Germans have a Blu-ray of this one, but I am perfectly happy with this DVD because I only watched it once in a blue moon. And it's definitely not my first choice of a Stallone film. So other than that, I used to hate it more. I've sort of warmed towards it, not much, but again, I'm a massive Stallone fan. You know, for me, Stallone watching Stallone read the phone book would be interesting in a film. You know, so I'm gonna watch the guy and everything, regardless. But yeah, next up is a absolute favorite of mine, Tango and Cash, 1989. Great buddy cop film with Sylvester Stallone, Kurt Russell, Terry Hatcher is in it. Also, Jack Palance is the main villain. Great, great film. Great music by Harold Faltermeyer, and a theme that really gets stuck in your head after watching for days on end. It's a great classic. This one, and this is the last one. Victory, also known as Escape from Victory or Escape to Victory, sort of a World War II POW film, which involves football, aka for the Americans, soccer. I'm sorry. With a great cast. Michael Caine is in it. Max von Sydow, Pele, a real soccer player, football player. You know what? This is again a bit of an underrated one with a score by Bill Conti, of course, the composer for the Rocky films, and he also did Lock Up and Fist with Stallone. Yeah, Stallone might have been a bit out of place as a POW in a World War II sort of ensemble film, but you know what? I think it works. And it's directed, by the way, by the great legendary John Huston. So definitely a bit of an underrated one. I do recommend this one. It's a bit underrated. I've only seen it a handful of times. It's someone that I go back to often, but every time I do enjoy it. So, you know, there you go. That's the Stallone collection.